and get a lawyer to write the landlord a letter and tell them that you have the right, you and your brother have the right to take over the apartment in your name, and ask them to change the, to bill it, to send the bill to you and to recognize you as a tenant. And we'll also talk in a minute about the fact that they're not accepting your checks.
He tried that once before.
Yeah.
I went to court, and he tried to get me out before.
How do you send the checks? By mail?
Return receipt. They have to. He has to sign for it.
And
but I get it back, and it says refused.
Okay. And do you open the envelopes?
No, not
good.
at all.
All right. That's good. Keep the envelopes. Don't open them. If you ever end up in court, hand the envelopes to the judge and let the judge open them.
Oh, yeah, right.
In other words, judges don't like landlords who play this kind of game. At least most judges don't.
I mean, we're getting along fine. All of a sudden, he started it a year and a half ago.
Well, this is all about money.
Yeah, of
You
course.
understand that?
Of course.
Okay, Michael, explain to Sal about succession.
Okay, Sal, so Mr. McKee is correct. You have a slam dunk case for succession here, which is good news for you. The question is, how do you go about asserting it? Just to give you a little explanation of why you have a right to succession here. The way it works is that if you and your mother were both residents, occupy the apartment as your primary residence for a period of 2 years, contemporaneously, before she vacated the apartment, then you, under the laws, get a right to succeed to the rights to the apartment.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so the question now is, what does that mean, primary residence? Now, you have to establish that you were both primary residents of the apartment during this period of time. It's, as a practical matter, I should say, in reality, probably no question about it, but as a practical matter, you have to go about proving it if you get into court, which means that you're going to have to show documentation.
I have bills under my name.
That's great. So the type of documentation that you'll need is driver's license, voter registration, your tax documents. If you use this address on those documents, that's something you should use as well. You should, any bills that you have, utility bills, all of these things are relevant to proving your primary residence during this period of time.
How about a birth certificate?
Does it have the address? Were you born in the apartment?
In the apartment? Yeah, that's true. You're funny.
Yeah. I don't know that the birth certificate will be all that useful to you.
I got bank statements.
Bank statements, sure. What I would do if I were you, you don't necessarily need a lawyer at this point, but what you should do is inform your landlord in writing that you are claiming succession rights to the apartment. You should say that your mother moved out, and for that 2-year period prior to her departure, that you both resided in the apartment together, and that there should be no question about whether or not you have rights to the apartment, and that he should put your name on the lease and accept your rent payments from here forward.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, I don't have a lease. We never did. It's rent-controlled.
Rent-controlled, and many rent-controlled tenants never had a lease, and if they did, it was 55, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
I want to just slightly disagree with Michael on a procedural matter, which is I think I would feel much more comfortable if you did hire a lawyer, a good tenant lawyer.
I do have a lawyer.
Well, okay, let me tell you what you should do. Have your lawyer write the landlord a letter and say that I'm writing on behalf of my client, Sal, and whatever your brother's name is, and here are the facts, and have the lawyer tell the landlord that he must now recognize you and your brother as the tenants and to change the records and start sending the rent bills to you. And then, of course, we still have the issue of the rent checks that they're refusing, but we'll deal with that in a second.
Yeah.
But the reason I think that would be a better thing for you to do than you're writing the letter yourself. It's true, you don't actually need a lawyer to do this.
Okay.
But often landlords, when they get a letter from a tenant law firm, they will say, oh, well, wait a minute, it looks like he's going to fight. Because what they're counting on is at some point you're going to back down, or you're going to blink, or you're going to get scared, or they're going to come to you and say, look, we'll pay you $10,000 to move.
Yeah.
And which, of course, would be absurd for you to accept an offer like that.
Of course.
So I would feel much more comfortable knowing that you were being represented by a lawyer and that the lawyer was sending a letter to the landlord with this information, and just stick to your guns and be prepared. You
Yeah.
probably need to be prepared for a long struggle, I would guess.
Did I mention he tried to get me out before, a couple of years
Yes,
ago?
you did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Now, about the unpaid rent, I mean, is there anything that, I mean, he's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sending the checks every month, you're sending them return receipt, certified return
Yes.
receipt.
Yes.
He refuses them, you're keeping them, you're not opening them.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what else he could do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
Oh, yeah, there's one more thing. I live next door to a schoolyard, and
Yeah.
there's a Catholic school. It's called Mary Upper Christian, a church. And there's a word around that they might sell it. What happens if he sells the building?
It won't affect your status at all.
So if they want
A new
to buy
owner
the
steps
building,
in. A new owner steps into the shoes of the old owner in terms of the
they have to
regulatory.
negotiate with me, to, like pay me out.
No. The mere fact that the building is sold would not mean that you would have to move at all.
No, okay.
Okay, it's neither here nor there. If somebody buys the building and wants to demolish the building or do something else, that would be another matter. You would have to deal with it at that time.
Okay, all right.
But in terms of your regulatory status, the fact that there's a new owner in no way takes any rights away from you.
I see. All right.
I'm sorry, you were starting to say.
just about the last point that Michael said, I would exactly agree with that. The question that we were dealing with was, are you doing the correct things with your rent? Arguably, you could at this point simply stop sending rent to the landlord because it would be essentially pointless to do so, but that would put you in a position where the landlord could say that you have ceased,
Yeah.
could arguably say that you have ceased trying to pay rent, and I don't advise that to anybody unless the circumstances are different than what we're talking about here.
Okay.
I would continue to send the rent just as you've been doing and saving your envelopes.
Yeah, I'm the only one he's not taking a rent from in the building.
What form do you pay? Personal check or what?
Oh, I have my personal check with my
Okay.
name on it.
That's the best.
Yeah.
In your name or your brother's name?
No, my name.
Okay, you might want to open a joint account with the two of you.
Two of us?
You might want to consider that, but that's something you can talk to a lawyer about. But personal check is the preferred way to pay rent. It's much
see.
safer than any other method.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so you're doing the right thing.
Thank you very
Talk
much.
to your lawyer, don't wait, get that letter off, and be prepared for a long struggle, and be prepared for, they're going to fight you, and you're just going to have to stick it out.
Yeah.
But the law's on your side.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thanks
much
for calling.
your help.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Well, $175 a month, that means this landlord hasn't tried to, he could have been, under rent control, this rent would be at least $1,000 now if the landlord had been complying with the rent control
Right.
laws. So, all right, now we have another call. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
Oh, I guess my question is this. I am rent control, and I pay a fuel pass-along
Yep.
of $130.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to know is, how do I know if the fuel went down or if it went up or, I know if he doesn't notify...
Well, you get a notice every year from the State Division of Housing.
No, I don't.
Well, you're
I never
supposed to.
Nope, I never
Okay.
did.
Well, you need to look into that. This is something rent control tenants have to pay that rent stabilized tenants don't have to pay. It's a surcharge for fuel.
Right,
It's
that
called-
I understand.
No, I'm
What I wanna
explaining,
know is,
ma'am, I'm
how do I
explaining,
know
ma'am, I'm
when
explaining
it's
for the
down?
purpose of the viewers, so they'll understand what we're talking about, okay? And DHCR, the State Division of Housing, every the year, it goes up or goes down according to what the agency finds in terms of fuel costs. So if you're not getting that form, something's amiss. So I would find out, I would call DHCR and ask, say that you're being billed for this, but you haven't received any form. Hello?
I'm sorry, the NCR?
No,
What
DHCR, the State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, or as they now call themselves, New York State Homes and Community Renewal. rearranging the chairs on the deck chairs on the Titanic, calling themselves something new. It's the agency that administers rent control and rent stabilization. Okay?
Do you have I'm sorry, do you have a phone number for them?
It's on the screen right now. Okay?
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. 886-866-275-27. Okay.
Call and say you're rent controlled and you have a question about the fuel cost pass along.
Right.
And ask them for information. There is a form. There's a report that the agency does every year saying that fuel costs went up or fuel costs went down, and therefore the fuel pass along is going to be X dollars per room. And, and you should be receiving that. I mean, you said $130 a month?
That's right.
And is that because you have a very large apartment?
Yes, I do, but I pay a large rent also.
Well, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean, I'm trying to understand why it would be so high. Because
yes, that's my question.
It is based on the number of rooms.
Right.
So if you have a 2-room apartment, that's one thing. If you have a 5-room apartment or an 8-room apartment, that's another. Obviously, $130 for a 2- or 3-room apartment, that something would be wrong. It couldn't be that high.
Okay. Well, that's what I want to find out.
Anything you want to add to this?
I have 5 rooms, but my friend has 4, and she pays like $47. I have 5 rooms, and I'm paying $130.
Well, that doesn't compute. Just the mere arithmetic doesn't add up. It shouldn't be any different for her than it is for you.
That's my question. That's what I want. But supposedly they're supposed to let you know, the landlord, if it goes up.
Now, let me ask you a question. What neighborhood do you live in? Not the address, but the neighborhood. What neighborhood?
On the top of Manhattan, Inwood.
Okay. Go to your local elected officials' offices, your council member, your state assembly member, your state senator. Right. Often they have people on staff who can answer these kinds of questions and who are really expert in these kinds of programs. But call around and ask if there's any of your elected officials who have someone on staff who knows about, well, rent control is sort of special. No one knows about rent control anymore. But there are some people in some agencies and some offices who know a lot about rent control. So see if you can't find somebody who can help you. Right. Or a local senior center or someplace like that.
Very good.
Okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
What you're telling us on the face of it sounds wrong. If your friend is paying $47 for 4 rooms and you're paying $130 for 5 rooms,
yes,
somehow that does not add up. It can't be.
That's why when she told me what she was paying, and like I say, we used to be able to, there was a councilman here that would let you know.
Stanley Michaels.
Town meeting.
Stanley Michaels knew everything about rent control.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he was the one that said the rent, the fuel went down, or the fuel, and he would inform the people.
Right.
But like I say, he passed away, and and nobody says anything. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that doesn't mean you can't find some help. So call around and ask if anybody can help you with this.
Very good.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks for calling. And rent control tenants also have the labor pass along if they live in a doorman building, and every time there's a new contract with the union, people who live in unionized buildings get a rent increase for that.
Right.
So that's something that rent stabilized tenants don't have to pay. Okay, now we have another call. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, you're on the air.
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi.
I'm calling in regards to a folder of originally, I lived in this apartment since 1997, and I just signed a renewal lease, 2-year renewal lease. Unfortunately, all my renewal lease and the original lease are no longer to be found, along with court papers, Social Security forms, and I'm trying to find out, do I have a right to ask the landlord to give me copies of my original lease as well as the renewal leases that I've had?
So you can't find the original lease, you can't find the renewal leases. Do you think somebody's been In your apartment?
Yes, it's a folder that, matter of fact, I just went to court with them in August, and they were made to make changes in my apartment. And all those documents were together. I keep them in a folder in a bag. Landlord is named landlord folder, and that whole
that's missing.
folder is gone. I have nothing. Nothing.
When did you notice it missing?
I went to, matter of fact, get it because I'm going up to see, going up to Danny Farrell's office in regards to trying to get a freeze on my rent.
Right.
And I went to look for that folder because those are all pertinent papers, and it's nowhere to be found. Nowhere. And I put it in the same place all the time, and matter of fact, my house looked like a tornado once. I just got so upset because I just went crazy and just took out practically everything. And, and it's nowhere in this apartment.
There's nothing in the regulations that would require the landlord to give her a copy of the lease, is there? I don't think so.
No, there isn't. And this is a situation we run into occasionally, and it's a difficult one, unfortunately.
I live in a rent-stabilized apartment, and I listened to one of your programs. I listened to you, I think it was last month or so, but you were explaining, I got a little shaken up. You were explaining something about the rent stabilization law.
Well, what we're saying is that we're not aware of any requirement in the law that would require the landlord to give you a copy of your original lease or the renewal leases. You can ask. You need these, you're applying for SCREE or DREE, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Senior Citizen Rent Increase Exemption Program? Well, to apply for SCREE, you will have to have a lease.
Well, I only have the one I just signed. I don't have my original form.
Okay. Well, I think the current lease would be adequate for a SCREE application.
That should be sufficient.
Yeah. Well, so we're running out of time here. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree that if you have the current renewal lease, that should be sufficient to make the application and prove that you have a lease in effect.
Yeah, they just require the current lease. They don't require the original.
But the landlord does not have to give me a copy of any of the ones I've had.
I don't think so. I'm not aware of any law or regulation that would require him to give it to you. You can certainly ask for it as a courtesy and see what they will do, and tell them that you have misplaced your folder, and would they please and offer to pay for the photocopies.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for calling. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, but don't let this stop you applying for SCREE. Okay, so, well, I told you it'd be like intake. Michael, thank you so much, and we'll do this again.
My pleasure.
So you've been watching Tenants and Neighbors. We're on every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Thanks for watching, and please tune in again next week.